This is your daily dose of all things royal.
I'm here at a behavioral health site, a mental health site, Archewell Foundation, run by Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, do extraordinary work, particularly women and girls, but notably around mental health. And I just want folks to know, not only are they in compliance, it was a technical paperwork issue that was wildly hyped.
Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. That's Gavin Newsom, governor of California. You might ask, why is he speaking out about Meghan Markle and Archewell? I agree with him. I do think that the news about Archewell being so-called delinquent was blown out of proportion. And I'll get to that in a second. But the bigger question is, why did Gavin Newsom feel that it was important to make a statement about it? I never believed for a second that the Democrats turned their back on Meghan Markle. They may have publicly made it look like they turned their backs on her because she epically failed and the whole world pretty much sees her for what she is, which is a fraud. But I still think behind the scenes, they are helping them. And this is a great example of the Democrats supporting Meghan and Harry. If Gavin Newsom cut Meghan off, I highly doubt that he would have made a point to talk about the Archewell Foundation, public charity, and make it so that they are legitimate. There's something definitely going on here. When you look at what Gavin Newsom was making a speech about, it just so happens that he was advancing another $3.3 billion in taxpayer money going towards supporting the homeless as well as mental health facilities and grant money being given to a wide range of programs. Guess what, folks? Who do you think might be on that list? Most likely it's Archewell. And this makes me believe that this is why Gavin Newsom stepped up to say something about it. I also think, being that Gavin Newsom is supposedly rumored to fill in for Joe Biden should he not run a second term, that it would be Newsom that would fill his seats, which would mean that the governor position will be open if that does happen. Could this be the entry point for Meghan entering into politics and on her way to the White House? I could see it, especially since we got done with this PR stunt in Nigeria, to which a lot of the speeches or microphone grabs Meghan did was very much like a politician. The thank you, I'm so grateful to be here. I mean, on and on, really having nothing much to say, but it was very politician. Do I think that that was Meghan's audition? Absolutely. I think Meghan on the global stage was being watched probably by high-ranking Democrats like Gavin Newsom and maybe some other senior Democrats saying, oh, this woman can handle it, just like Kamala Harris. In fact, Meghan reminded me of Kamala Harris. As I've said before, there was a purpose for Miranda Barbeau to be on that trip. Let's not forget that she was the PR guru that was responsible for the Obama re-elect campaign. So everything that was executed out in Nigeria would be something of what a political candidate would execute on. So there's no doubt there's some type of posturing and positioning for Meghan in some role in government. This is a scary thought because we know how dangerous and corrupt she is. If, let's say, Gavin Newsom does substitute for Joe Biden in the presidential campaign, that would mean he would have to elect someone to fill his seat. There's not going to be an election, so could it be something similar to what happened in New York with Andrew Cuomo being kicked out of office and then Kathy Beaverface Hochul filling in? I think so. I think they could easily put Markle in that seat to fill it for the interim until the next election. 2 years ago, California had over $100 billion in surplus. Now, all of a sudden, people are scratching their heads wondering, where did that money go? This is what downtown LA looks like today, similar to what New York City looks like now. Under this man, the corruption is rife. It's absolutely shameful to see how much money has been wasted. $100 billion disappearing out of nowhere, and the situation in California is getting worse. So what is Gavin Newsom doing? Where is that money going? Under Gavin Newsom, it's going towards a lot of programs, I would say, that have been bankrupting the country, such as this whole climate change new Green Deal, as well as women's issues and social impact. Those social justice warriors like Meghan Markle have to get paid. This is what is happening. And one of the bigger programs that has been bankrupt in California is this climate initiative or policy that Gavin Newsom has put forward. Gavin Newsom is also in favor of bills that are now being presented of giving back billions and billions of taxpayer dollars for reparations to the African American community in California. So would Markle be an ideal candidate to represent the Black woman in California? Yeah, because Meghan checks off all the DEI requirements, and they would choose their base solely on that. Also, Meghan makes a good puppet. As long as she's making money, she doesn't care who to exploit. We all know this. I think it's worth adding that Gavin Newsom is also a web puppet and supports this global agenda. Looking at what has happened to California over the last 3.5 years, as well as what's going on in New York City, these people can't be trusted. And if Gavin Newsom is supporting and backing the so-called work of Archewell Fugazi Public Charity, that should be a red flag for everyone. Okay, the last point that I want to make here is going back to initially what Gavin Newsom had said about this being blown out of proportion, which 100% it is. Now, what I'm trying to wrap my head around is why is it that this year this was made into such a big deal when the same exact thing happened last year? All of this in detail was pointed out last year, but none of the media chose to pick it up. So the question is why? Why is it no one wanted to talk about this? This year, it's almost like new revelation has come out that Archewell Fugazi Public Charity is not really a foundation. How many years have I been saying that it is a charity and not a foundation? Many times over. I've created a playlist for anyone who wants to revisit those conversations. See it here. There are 9 videos here that go through tremendous detail of the ins and outs of Archewell Fugazi Public Charity, which includes going through with a fine-tooth comb their IRS tax statements, as well as their reports. Please, if you need information or further details, these are the videos I recommend you check out. But going back to Archewell delinquency blowing up in the media to a point where it reached mainstream here in the United States on the left, that's a pretty big deal. So the question is, why did that happen? And who made it happen? That's the bigger question. So yesterday, Neil Sean had released a video and he talked about potentially there could be a mole who leaked this information. I don't think it's so much as a mole leaking this information. I think this information was picked up by a journalist who, in collusion with other journalists, decide to make sure that this went viral. I think a lot of this has to do with journalists being mad that Harry and Meghan didn't allow any of the British media to go represent or report on this so-called fake royal tour. And I think in some way this was payback for doing that by completely sabotaging the so-called PR success that they had by overshadowing it with this bad news. Another way of looking at this is, could this have been a favor to the monarchy, considering how much embarrassment these two have presented for them over the last several years? I think perhaps maybe this was giving them a taste of their own medicine. Either way, it was blown out of proportion for a reason, whether it is to bring scrutiny to the Fugazi Public Charity or if it was to overshadow this nonsensical Nigerian vacation that they took. It definitely is serving a point. The question is, what exactly, and what is this going to do for the Harkle brand moving forward? I'll tell you this right now, Gavin Newsom coming out and stepping up and supporting these two is giving validity to two grifters who legitimately are running a corrupt organization. This is a fact, and I have proven this in detail in those 9 videos. Archewell Fugazi Public Charity is not operating in the guidelines of a 501c3 public charity is supposed to be following. All of that has been explained, especially with the organizations that they have been supporting and contributing to, which then begs the question, Harry, who was a director, who no longer is seen listed on any of the documentation, did any of his money that went to supporting and giving grants out to come from the crown? That's even a bigger issue, especially if money had been allocated to political action committees like Color of Change. That could be seen as election interference. And now we go back into why Harry and Meghan came to the United States in the first place in 2020. The bigger story and scandal here is the censorship. And for the life of me, I can't understand why journalists are not picking up on that fact and reporting about it. Instead, they choose to make a story about Archewell being delinquent with the Attorney General is like laughable, because it really isn't that deep and serious. This stuff is serious, and everyone's missing it. Clearly, nobody was paying attention to this video. So there's only 19,000 views on it. And that's an important video talking about how Archewell is involved with certain organizations that are part of this censorship machine, censorship that affects all of us. I'm not going to lie, it is exhausting and it is frustrating at times because it feels like no one is listening. And the power really is in the hands of the media. We have them to blame for the most part because the media does play a role in shaping how we think, how we feel, and what we do. This Archewell delinquency serves as a perfect example demonstrating how the media chooses what to promote and what not to promote. How many times over have we asked, why is it the media won't talk about these invisible kids? How is it the media won't talk about Harry's involvement with Aspen Institute? How is it that the media won't dig into Archewell Fugazi Public Charity? I mean, the work is done. Just come to the Royal Grift and take a look. There are stories here that are a lot bigger than this bullshit delinquency. In my next video, I'm going to reveal the UK's involvement with this global censorship agenda and aligning with Harry and Meghan's timeline beginning in 2020. Be sure to subscribe and turn that notification bell on because you don't want to miss this next video explaining this. But as always, I will be back with more content. But until then, please be safe and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
I was such a fraud.